Okay, so that brings us to okay, so we have 6, 6 here, 8, 6 here, and then we go to 8, 8. So I guess that 8, 7 is is the platform that takes us to Hogwarts or something like that. We cannot see it. But in this one, we will do a little bit of plotting of some data. And it seems a bit open-ended. There's not even an illustration of what the plot should be, I think. Yeah. Okay, we'll just hack something together. So this is your first taste of how you can do plotting. So no, I mean, we didn't really use it. We didn't like Morten and Vedrana didn't end up using lecture notes, but I actually started writing some lecture notes here. And they do contain a brief chapter on how to plot data, so you can consider looking at that, but maybe you'll get more out of just googling how to plot whatever you want to plot, and this is also something that I think you can use ChatGPT to great effect. I mean, memorizing all sorts of weird plot commands is in my opinion not it's not something that has benefited me a lot. But let's look at it. We have the weather in the UK, blah blah blah, and then we need to make a nice looking plot. Good, fine, I guess. So what is this file that we need to plot? I guess that's what we need to figure out first. It's called Weather 2012, and we got it here under Files, Weather 2012. Okay, that's not so interesting. Okay, so I guess these are temperatures or something. I hope it's not the temperature, because I don't even think UK has this bad weather. Who knows what it is? Maybe it's the amount of rain in meters. Who knows? We need to plot this data. So let's try to do that. So we will. I think I'll plot this as a line plot, right? That seems to make sense to me. That this is a line plot. I think there are 12 values here. So let's plot a line with 12 points on the x-axis, and then these as the y values. So where are we? We are here. Is there a file for plotting? Loading, language, growth, counting? No. We'll create one. So we'll call this for plot weather.py, like this. And the first thing we need to do is we need to load the data. So we can use what we did before to load the data. I think that is completely fine. So we will copy paste a little bit of code in, and then we need to load this weather file. So what is it called? It is called CSV. Yeah. And yeah, good. And that gives us each row of the file, and we print them out. And that is probably a good idea. So let's check what happens when we run this code. Yeah, this happens. So we get a single row printed out with just all the data. So now we need to plot it. So the first thing we notice is that these are strings, and we want to plot, we need to convert this to numbers. So it's a good idea to convert this to a list of numbers. I think it's a good idea to insert a breakpoint somewhere. So let's just do print done plotting like this. Put in a breakpoint and start experimenting a little. The first thing we need to do is that we need to import Matplotlib so we can start making plots. So I just copy paste these lines of code, and I put them in here. I remove this function, this line, and now let's just explore how we make a simple plot. We can do that using the plot command, And I can, for instance, try to plot a point at location 2, 10. So the x value will be 2, the y value will be 10. And here I want to plot maybe a red circle. And you can specify that using R and O. And that will give me a red circle. And then in order to see the plot, you need to call plot.show. So now let's try to run this code. And I'm just going to select it, go to the debug console and copy paste it in. And that brings up a point. So plot like this. So notice that I plot a point at 2, 10. Okay. So you can do this, for instance. We can plot a point at 4.4, and maybe we make that a black square. Black is for some reason K. Just go with it. It's K. That's black. So now it's a black, not a square, black star. This is the star. And then maybe just for fun, we try not to specify an argument and we plot something at 1, 1 and see what happens. So let's try to run all of this stuff. I just copy paste it in. And what does this give us? It gives us this one, and this one didn't get a specification, so it just shows as nothing basically. That's not very interesting. So maybe we can set it to be a blue triangle. I think, maybe I can't remember how triangle is. See, this is where you need to read the documentation from Matplotlib. I think this would be a triangle, but I'm not sure. Let's try. We need to close this one. Yeah, we need to. Okay, so it did become a triangle. I seem to be able to remember that. Okay, so this is how you can just plot a bunch of points. Let's see how we can plot a line. So in order to plot a line, you still use the plot command. Then you specify a list of x values, so 1, 2, and 5. And then you specify a list of y values, so maybe -1, 2, and 0. And then in order to specify what type of line it should be, we should maybe say it's a straight line. Like this just means that it should make a line. And then what color should it be? It should maybe be red. And then we can optionally specify a format for the data points themselves. So in this case, I specify them as a circle. And I can't remember if R should go in front or behind. Can't remember. Let's just do the experiment. Let's see what happens when we do this. Maybe it's an error. I have to close this between each run. This seems to work. Okay, so it plot this data like 1, 2, 5. That's the x values. 1, 2, 5. Y values is -1 here, 2 and 0. And we specified as a red line. This is this segment, and the data points themselves should be circles. So that's how we can plot a line. Actually, this first input argument is optional. If I remove it, let's just do that as a little experiment, and then run this code. Let's close U. Now it will just assume that the first input argument are y values, like these are y values, and then we'll say the x values are 0, 1, and 2 by default. So that's just useful to remember. Okay, so armed with all of this amazing knowledge about how to plot, we can maybe begin to approach the problem. So we have the row here. Oh, there's the row. Do we need to close you in order to? Yeah, we need to close that because it was logging off the debug console. So here's the row, and those are full of floating point numbers, and that doesn't work. So let's call data for define an entity list called data, and then we loop over each element in the row, and we say data.append float of x. So we convert it to a floating point number. Let's try to run that. That actually gives us the data like this. And now we can just plug in the data here and run this code. And I guess this is the weather. Maybe it is the temperature. Maybe this is actually a reasonable guess for the summer temperature if you average it over the entire day. then maybe it makes sense, I guess. So it's probably temperature. I bet the problem says so. I was just too lazy to read it. So let's try to remove the red specification, because now we want to plot all the elements in the other data sets. So we have another data set here, 100 years. We plug that in. That gives us each of the rows. And then what I want to do is I want to take each of the rows. Something funny with the spacing. You want to take each of the row, convert it into this data variable, like convert it from strings to floating point list. Actually, I'm explaining too much. Let's insert a breakpoint and see what happens. So we break here. We don't want to hold show just yet. Let's insert a breakpoint there and insert the debugger. Because now we start reading the rows of this CSV file. And I remember that it had like the data for many years as different rows. Let's just confirm it. So we start by reading this one, and then we read this one, and so on and so forth. And actually I can see that it has the year as the first element. That's interesting, and I feel that's something that we should make use of. So let us, so what did I do? Did something stupid. Wait, so we read each row, and then we convert it into floating point numbers. Like this. Now we can see we have the year here, and then we have the data as the remaining lines. So let's get the year out. That's the first element, and then we say that the data is all the remaining elements. So that will just separate the year out. We can just confirm that. So that gives us 2012, and the data are the remaining elements. Because now I want to plot it, we don't need to have the import statement here. We can put it up here. Then we want to plot the data like this, and then let's do show so you can see it. Okay. So if I do all of that, it's a little hard to select. Yeah. Select all of this code, and I run it. Plot is not defined. Oh, that's because I didn't run this line, so I need to run that, of course. But now I can run this code, and this will plot 2012. So now, of course, I want to plot all the years together, but maybe I want to give this a label so I can see which years go with which year. So the way I'll do that is that I'll use another special feature, which is that you can pass this label, which can then be used to format format the year like this. So these F strings are just a convenient way of inserting, mixing numerical data and strings. You can see that if you run this, it will convert it to this string. And then when I specify label equal to this stuff, it will assign a label to my this data series. And then if I call this function called legend, it will insert a legend based on whatever these labels are. So let's confirm that that actually happens. So now I have inserted these two, made these two changes. Let's run all of this code. And now we can see that it inserts this label with the year. I want to do one other thing, namely I want to insert a grid, because I think it looks nice. So now it's maybe a little bit more readable with this grid. So now what I want to do is I want to loop over each element, each row, make these plots, and then at the very end I want to insert the legend, insert the grid, and show the plot. So I can do that using these commands. And this should actually produce a slightly nicer plot that looks like this. And I can improve on this in many ways. I can specify different colors and make it nicer, but these are these are like the basics, and I think it's better that you explore these other options using basically using Google. Like whenever I want to create a plot and I don't have an immediate idea about how to do it, I Google it, and there's always somebody on Stack Exchange or the Matplotlib documentation or somewhere like that who knows how to do it. And these days you can also ask ChatGPT. But this is being able to plot points and line plots like this is enough to get you started. And most scientific plots will actually just use a combination of these features. So I think I'll end the videos for today here because we have gotten to the end. Maybe there'll be 8.7, and in that case maybe I'll record a video for it. We'll see. So good luck with the project exercises, and good luck with the test exam.